Hi, my name is Z Sheikh, and I welcome you to the Learn to Code program offered by Nuru Solutions, where we take you on a journey from saying hello world to actually conquering it. In lesson 1, we're going to be talking about the elements of programming. An element is the most basic component a complex object can be broken into. To understand the elements of a program, let's first say hello to the world. Hello World is the first program anyone who's trying to learn programming will write. This program, when run, is basically used to display hello world on the computer console. Almost every programming language starts off by showing you how to print hello world. This program has an interesting history. This was first introduced in the very widely read C programming language by Brian Kernighan. From that point on, this has been widely used as the first ever program a coder does to make sure that he or she is able to communicate effectively with the computer. Writing a hello world program and seeing the output on the screen means that everything is working the way it should, and you should be able to start writing more complicated programs. It would be no exaggeration to say that Hello World is the most famous program, a program that almost every programmer has started off with, and that includes me. So let's see what it is exactly we are doing with Hello World. We are trying to establish a connection with the computer. We are telling it to say hello to the world. The computer is not a human being, right? If it were, then you would simply say, hey, computer, print hello world, and it would print the words on the screens. Well, actually, these days, there are computers and Siri, of course, that can do that. But those are really expensive and complicated to program. So we will start off with something that is simple and hopefully one day be programming computers that can listen and carry out our voice commands. So let's see how we communicate with the computer. Before that, let's see how you communicate with each other. Right now, I'm communicating with you by talking, and you're communicating with me by listening to what I'm saying. So there are two parts to this communication, me talking and you listening, right? Basically, I'm getting the words out of my mouth so that they can reach into your ear, out from my mouth into your ear, and I'm using words to do that communication. The words coming out of my mouth are called output, and the words going into your brain through your ear is the input. So we are effectively communicating via a process of input and output. If you're reading from this presentation, then what becomes the input and what becomes the output? Take a minute to think there. By talking, I'm giving you information, and by listening, you're getting the information. So output is giving information and input is actually gathering information. So in the presentation, what is giving you the information? The screen is giving you information. You're reading and watching from the screen. So the screen is the output here. Also, you're listening to my lecture from the audio. And this audio also acts as an output. So basically two outputs, the screen and the audio. You're reading with your eyes, so the input is from your eyes now. So in this presentation, the output is on the screen and the audio device, and the input is from your eyes. I'm going to ask you a question now. When you're watching TV, what is the input and the output? If you can give me an answer in the comment section, that would be great. I will give you again a hint. There is more than one input here. So now we know that communication consists of two parts, the input and the output. Similarly, communication with the computer also consists of two parts, the input and the output. For the Hello World program, for example, we want to tell the computer to display Hello World on the screen. So the output is clear. We need to see the computer displaying Hello World on the screen. The computer screen is also called a console. So basically, the Hello World program should show Hello World on the console like this. So how do we do that? We do that by writing a program. A program is how we tell the computer to do what we want it to do. Since we can't really tell it what exactly to do, we write it like instructions and give it to the computer. Well, you can't really write instructions on a paper and put it in front of the computer, though there was like punching things where you would actually do that. You would actually need to put these instructions into the computer. That is, you would need to input them into the computer. How would you do that? Well, just like the screen is how the computer communicates with you, you communicate with the computer with an input device. And what is that input device? Well, there are many, but the most important one is the keyboard. This is how you type up the instructions into the computer. You type your programming using the keyboard, and when you run the program, we will see what that means later on. The computer says hello to the world via the console. So now here you should be able to define and identify what input is and what output is and what a program actually does that. And that's how we bring, that is basically the program is bringing the input and the output together. I know I've been talking for a while, and as Linus Torvalds said, talk is cheap, show me the code, right? So Linus Torvalds, before I show you the code, I want to talk a little bit about him. He's a very influential personality in the tech world. He's a Finnish computer scientist who was the principal force behind the development of the Linux operating system. Linux was originally developed for personal computers, just like Windows is, right? But has been since from that time ported to more platforms than any other operating system. Because of the dominance of Android phones, which are based on Linux, and smartphones, Linux has basically the largest installed base of all general purpose operating systems. While Linux does not have quite the popularity of Windows when it comes to personal computers, only about 2.6% of desktop computers. The Chromebook actually runs the Linux operating system. However, Linux is the leading operating systems on servers with over 96.4% of the top 1 million web service operating systems are in Linux. It's one of the most prominent examples of free and open source software collaboration. What that means is Windows, of course, you need to pay for it, pay for everything, whereas Linux is a free software. That means the source code may be used, modified, and distributed commercially or non-commercially by anyone under the terms of its license, which is also known as the GNU General Public License. So basically, you can work with Linux, you don't have to pay for it, you can contribute to it, a lot of good stuff. And that's why Linus Torvalds, as I said, is a very influential personality. So anyways, taking his advice, let's move on to actual coding now, right? So what we're going to do is to start off with coding, we're going to use a tool called Flogarithm. This is a free beginners programming language tool that is based on simple graphical flowcharts. So when you start to program, students are used one of those text-based programming languages, Scratch or C or Python or whatever. Depending on the language, this can either be easy or frustratingly difficult, right? There's a joke that goes something like this. When I first started writing Hello World using like Python or something, I just had to say print Hello World on the console and it would do that. Simple program. But as I graduated to more complicated language, writing Hello World actually became like writing lines of codes, having lots of libraries, dependencies and all that. But here we are simplifying everything, and we won't be writing code as such. We will be first understanding, as I said, how to come to that point of writing code. And we are going to do that by using flowcharts. Flowcharts is a tool, as you can see here. You can concentrate on the concepts rather than the nuances of a typical programming language. And I will show you how you can run your programs directly in Flogarithm. And so basically you're writing the logic here, and then you will be converting this logic into a program, right? So the great thing about Flogarithm is that it's www.flogarithm.org. It can, it's easy for you to learn all the major languages, and it can interactively convert your flowchart to over 18 languages, including Java, JavaScript, Perl, Python, etc. So in our next class, we will tackle how to write this Hello World program and what tools are available to us to help with writing these programs. Try to install Flogarithms on your computers. This runs on Windows machines for now. For Mac, you might have to use a virtual machine that runs Windows on, which is a needless complication. I would suggest to use Windows machines only. So in the next class, we will actually be downloading Flogarithm and writing our Hello World program in it. Okay, thank you so much.